Alrighty guys, what's going on? My name is Garen Belmont. How y'all doing today? So, a couple of different things before we get into the build video, but first things first, I wanted to say that I just did a this is the third take of this video, and I just got done doing a 40-minute take of this video, and then I said to myself, this video is way too long, it's too much. I decided to just scrap that video, and I decided to do another take. So in this video, I am just simply going to just say, hey, I'm using this, and I might do just kind of like a brief, hey, you can use this as well, yada, yada, yada. That's because I don't want this video to be like 40 minutes long. I think that's too much. So I'm just going to kind of speed run through everything. I'm not going to explain everything just because, again, I just don't want this video to be super long. If you have any questions on why I did this thing over this thing, then I will gladly answer any questions you have in the comment section. So please feel free to ask questions on why I did this, or why didn't you use this over this. So just kind of keep that in mind. And if my voice sounds kind of shot right now, that's because, like I said, I literally just got done doing that 40-minute video that I just did for no reason because I ended up scrapping it. So let's get into the build. So with this Harris build, I have to say just one thing right off the bat. This is probably, you know what? No, this isn't probably. Harris is the most fun Descendant I have played in this game, and it's not even a question. Harris single-handedly saved this game for me. She restored my faith in the first Descendant. That is how much I absolutely love this character. So let's go over the build. Like I said, I'm going to kind of speed run this. I will do a little bit of explanation, but I'm not going to do so much to where it's going to make the video 40 minutes long. Excuse me. So for the first thing is going to be our external component set. I'm running Hazmat Disposal Team. An alternative that you can run, or another one that you can run if you so choose, is going to be the Plague set. The nice part about the Plague set is, both sets do exactly the same thing. It's just the direction, or it's more so the direction of how you get to that point. So it's like if you did, if you're moving from point A to point B, but instead of going from point A to point B, you also have the option of going from point A to point C to point B, or something along those lines. So these both do the same thing, and I really can't tell you which one does the most damage. They seem like just about on par. The only difference is that this one gives you a 5% max shield, and this one gives you the tech skill power. Again, I'm not min-max enough to really give a shit about like the 5% skill power. If you want to run it, run it. In terms of our external component set cores, we're running max HP and defense. So max HP defense, typically you're going to run max HP and defense for most of your builds. The only time you're not going to run max HP is if you're running something like an overwhelming shield build, where you're going to be building into shields instead of HP, because it's going to reduce your HP to 1. So that's the only time you're ever going to not run max HP. So for our reactor, I will say you can build into either tech or fusion. I built into tech, and this is before I knew how to build Harris, so I built into tech. So I'm running toxic and tech reactor. In terms of my my substats, that at least that's what I call them. I call them substats. We're running toxic skill power boost ratio, and then we're running skill cooldown. You can also go with tech skill power boost ratio. I settled with this just because I had been farming for so long that I just did not feel like running trying to get like a best in slot reactor. And I'm also, like I said, I'm not a min-max player. I don't care about the every last little bit of damage. I don't give a shit, honestly. Usually what my builds are catered towards are people who aren't super serious about this game. So if you want to run this build as someone who is a much more casual player, then this build will 100% work for you. I've ran this build in Void Erosion Purge challenge modes, oh my goodness, I can't talk. Challenge mode, stage 5. I've ran this build in Void Erosion Purge normal, stage 10. I've ran this in the new Supermassive Receptor dungeon. I've ran this build in the new Void Vessel. I've run this build in every piece of content that I possibly can, and except for Void Abyss. And I can safely say, if you follow this build guide step by step, you can run all of the content in the game. Probably not as fast as possible, as I'm not a speedrunner, so I typically don't make my builds cater towards that. I make my builds cater towards me and my personal preferences, if it aligns with how the character is built in certain aspects of the character. So that is my level of thinking when I go into things when it comes to TFD. I thought I had another reactor that was semi-decent. This one right here, this was also another role I got. This one is skill duration up with tech skill power boost ratio. Skill duration up is nice because it is going to increase how long our third ability is up, as well as our passives from, our buffs from Harris's passives. So just keep that in mind. Next up is going to be our best in slot weapon. For our best in slot weapon, we're going to be using Secret Garden. That's because when you use her second and first ability, you are going to build up stacks of pest control. When you build up stacks of pest control, it is going to give you skill power per stack. So that is why we are running this. We are using it as a stat stick, so we are not going to be firing this weapon. So because of this, I have Brisk Walk on here. If you are, again, because you're running this as a stat stick, for your cores, for the 2 yellow options, you are going to run something like sprint speed or grapple hook cooldown. So that's up to you. Do with whatever you want. Honestly, I didn't get the cores that I wanted when I initially made this build. So for me, I would have went with max sprint speed, max cooldown reduction for our grapple hook. So that's just me personally. For the passive of one of the passive buffs of Harris is that it's actually going to increase our melee damage. So you can also run a sword with this. Now, she is a skill build or skill descendant, so you're going to be primarily using her skills, so you're not really going to have an opportunity to use Hypernova. So this one is just going to be more for funsies, rather than you actually using it. I just threw it on there because it's the new weapon, plus I was building it as I was leveling up Haley, and I just so happened to put it on this build. So for this empty slot, you're going to run better concentration. That's going to give you the critical damage. I don't have the mod because I've just been super unlucky with the drops for it, so I don't have it, but you're going to put better concentration here. Let's talk about Arche Tuning. So for Arche Tuning, we are running double mutation cell. For our 2 mutation cells, we're running fusion tech tuning. This is nice because she is fusion and tech, so you're constantly, because you're utilizing her entire kit, you are getting both buffs with this, so you're getting the skill duration up as well as the skill power. And then with this one, you aren't getting the singular, but the most important part is going to be the tech that is going to give the 4.7% skill power. I'm sorry. And then for Inversion Reinforcement, I'm running Arche Circulation Tactic. This is going to give us some skill cooldown when we use one of our abilities. I'm running Deploy Hardened Shell because she is within melee range of enemies. I wanted to add just a little bit of damage reduction in there. It's not a lot, but it's just something. You know what I mean? Like I said, she already passively just is a freaking tank, so you really won't have any issues, but I just threw it on there because I didn't know what else to run on there. So I'm running Deploy Hardened Shell, and then we're running Shield Regeneration Algorithm. When using Descendant and Harris, while Toxin is between 30 and 70%, we'll talk about this more when we actually talk about her kit, but this will grant Toxin Enhancement, Toxic Skill Power plus 9%. So now let's get into the Descendant modules. Like I said, I'm going to be super rapid fire about this. We're not running a red mod. That's because I really like her base kit already. I will make builds for each of these mods, and we're also not running Pioneer's Resolution, which is her Ancestors module. The reason why I'm not running the reason why I don't want to start making a habit of making builds starting out with Ancestors module is because they're random, especially right now when we can't when we don't have the trading system. It's going to be kind of like a bitch for other players to, build something that they can't, that is completely random and is very hard to get, I don't want to say very exclusive, but the developers intentionally made these very sought after. They put a high demand on them, and so I don't want to make my builds around that. I will, if I do get a good Pioneer's Resolution stat, then I will make a build around it. But until then, for now, we're just running your normal modules. So we're running Nimble Fingers and MP conversion. It's nice because Harris doesn't have MP, so we get the benefit, all the benefit, and none of the negative. We're running Stim Accelerant, and we're also running increased HP. There is a reason why we're running double HP mods. Mid-air maneuvering, you can run whatever you want here, but mid-air maneuvering is going to be the standard for me and most people who play this game. We're running, for our damage increases, we're running Power Increase, Toxic Amplification, Focus on Tech, and Tech Amplification. This is primarily for, usually in the past I would have run something like Focus on Toxic, but because we're already getting like so much like toxic from other sources, someone had explained to me that eventually you get to a point where you hit diminishing returns, where the amount of toxic damage that you're actually putting into the build doesn't really matter, so it's almost like a waste. So I wanted to withhold that, and instead I wanted to run Power Increase, just because the amount of, when it comes to skilled power affects your flat skill power, so it affects it affects this number right here compared to toxic, which doesn't fully affect this number, which doesn't affect that number. At least that's how I've understood it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. There's just so many bips and bops when it comes to this game, and I'm not that smart of a person. I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty stupid. So, I understand things based off of how cookie cutter this game is. So I learn things just as much as the next guy. But yeah, and so for our next mod, we're also running Skill Expansion. This will increase the range of all 4 of our abilities, which is good because with our first ability, we get Tow. With this one, we get a Stun. And then the other 2 abilities is just their overall range. And then next up is going to be one of the newer Arche Tech mods, or one of the newer Ultimate mods, and that's going to be Shield Charge. Now, what Shield Charge does is, when landing a Clash type skill, which is going to be the first 2 abilities here, converts a percentage of your defense and applies it to the skill power for 10 seconds. I'm guessing you can... I should have been paying attention to this. You're going to notice with this build, you're going to have a lot of buffs up. So sometimes it's hard to track which buffs are up at a time. So I will try my best to see when we actually go into the portion where I talk about how to play this build. But I'm pretty sure this is constantly active so long as you're using your Clash type skills. So you're going to have this up constantly, if I'm not mistaken. So next up for our trigger module, we're running Steel Vanguard. So with Steel Vanguard, when you use a clash type skill, continuous damage to nearby enemies, it is an AoE. The damage is increased by a percentage of your max HP and your max shield. This is why we kind of went. This is kind of why we went with that certain node that we did on the Arche Tuning board. So yeah. If you are going to run, if you are going to farm out this this trigger module, I highly recommend you run. You get the full 15-second duration on this mod, because if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to how Steel Vanguard works, when it becomes active, I believe that's when the cooldown starts. So if you get the full 15-second duration at the bottom there, what that will do is this will mean that you will have a 100% uptime for Steel Vanguard. So that's just something to note. If you can only get your hands on this module, when you first get Steel Vanguard, use whichever one you have, and then just over time, just try and get that, try and get the God roll. So now, I don't know why I keep exiting out. So now let's talk about Harris. Harris is what I like to call a builder-spender descendant. So back in my World of Warcraft days, I used to play Rogue. Rogue is a builder spender class in World of Warcraft. So immediately I felt right at home when playing Harris, and I think that's why I also enjoy her so much, is because of that builder spender playstyle. But the way she works is you are going to build up resource with your first two abilities, and then you're going to spend said resource with the second two abilities. Where this gets complicated is her passive. Now, with her first ability, again, I'm not going to go into every nook and cranny about this ability, but basically, on the third strike, you do get a pretty significant skill power damage increase, so keep that in mind. But this ability also has tow with it, so I'm guessing this would also synergize with any kind of tow mods or anything like that. The developers have been adding a lot of mutation cells and mods where it's like, if you are using a skill with tow or that has tow on it, then you will get, you will do Y thing, you know what I mean? With her second ability, it's simply just a leap. You press the button, it'll do a leap that keeps you in air for a little bit. If you press the button again, you will do the charge slam that you see in the video footage there. And then this also has a stun. The stun is increased by duration up, so right now it's at 3.9 seconds. With her third ability, this is a continuous damage AoE, or sorry, a normal AoE around her, and this is also, like I said, is going to be one of your spenders. And then her fourth ability is going to be her laser beam, again, a normal AoE ability. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry, the second ability also gives you overshield, which I think makes her the only descendant in the game that has overshield. To my knowledge, I'm pretty sure no other descendant in the game has overshield. So she is the first descendant in the game that has overshield. And then her fourth ability is the laser, and then when you use it, it also gives you some defense. Where she gets complicated is going to be her passive. So I'm going to explain this as fast as possible and as easy as I possibly can. So when it comes to her Toxin Gauge, which is her custom resource, she has 3 segments. Each segment is color-coded. The first segment is white. The second segment is yellow. The third segment is red. They are color-coded, and they will have a coordinating buff with each segment. So for the white portion of the custom resource bar, you get toxin stabilization. This will give you cooldown decrease by 20%, skill duration up 30%, damage reduction by 5%. All of them will give you that damage reduction by 5%. You also get, with the second buff, which is toxin optimization, this is going to be your yellow buff. This is going to give you max HP increase by 60%, defense increase amount by 80% and damage reduction by 5% as well. And then your last one is going to be Toxin Overload. This is going to be the red segment or the red buff. This is going to give you melee weapon attack increase amount by 30%, skill power increase by 30%, and again, damage reduction by 5%. Where Harris starts to get a little crazy is going to be the way you're going to play Harris is you are going to try and keep these buffs active as much as possible. The best way of doing it is the way I've been doing it. When your bar is filled to a certain point, and you can tell by the custom resource bar, when you maintain it for a short period of time within that certain segment, you will get one of those buffs. Those buffs will stay active for as long as your skill duration. So you can increase it with something like skill duration up or skill extension, what have you. Your job is to keep like I said, all of these buffs active at the same time, because that is going to give you the maximum value. I have created a rotation for myself on how I do this, but sometimes I will switch it up based off of, because sometimes this character is so fast-paced that sometimes I like to change things. So I'm just going to quickly showcase the character. So, as you can see, we have a lot of buffs up right now. I mean, literally, I think that is the most amount of buffs I have ever seen on the buffs and debuffs bar. So, the way it's going to work is, and I'll try to do this as I'm doing it as well. When you hit 2 of your punches, you are going to be in the red. You can either do a second punch, which is completely up to you, but I don't recommend it just because it's a little bit easier to manage when you are not completely full on the red bar. But what you're going to do is you're going to press her. You can either immediately press her 4th ability and then press the 2nd ability, or you can press the 3rd ability, my bad. So 4th, then 3rd, or you can do 3rd, then 4th. Both of these will lead to the same result. It's just the order in which you do them. Sometimes I forget to press the 3rd ability, so I'll immediately go into the 3rd ability, and then I'll follow it by pressing the 3rd ability. So you can do. So after you do that, 3rd ability, 4th ability, that's going to put you directly into the white, and that is going to refresh both the yellow and the white buffs. And so basically, your general gameplay loop is just going to be constantly managing those buffs. So again, so the most important buff here is going to be the first buff. That is going to be the white buff, just because the white buff, what it does is, again, it gives you that skill duration up, which means which means the buffs themselves are going to last longer, but it's also going to give you skill CDR, which is going to reduce the cooldown of all of your buffs. So it's like, that is going to be the most important one, because it's going to make sure that the other buffs stay active. So that is like the best way I can describe how to play this character. She is a builder spender. Now, another thing to keep in mind is you can also build up her resource without actually hitting enemies. It's just when you actually hit enemies, you are building up more resource. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're like starting a mission, you can actually build your resource before you actually start fighting enemies. It's just going to take more of you using the 1st and 2nd ability to get those buffs up, and typically you're just going to spam the 1st ability. That's as best as I could possibly explain how to play Harris, I will show off some gameplay footage of me doing Void Erosion Purge challenge mode stage 5, so you guys can just kind of see the character fully built in action. That way you guys know I'm not full of shit and the build actually works. So that's all I have to say for this video. This video is already way too long. I don't want to talk anymore. My voice is already shot. So that is the build. Okay, if you want to make any changes, or if you have any anything that I did wrong, please leave them in the comment section. I will tell you why I went with that instead of this, or I will acknowledge that I made a mistake. So I'm only human, and like I said, I'm not a numbers guy. I'm just a, hey, put this in there, you know, very much like the put triangle in triangle hole. So sometimes, every now and again, I'll put the circle in the triangle hole. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Enjoy the gameplay footage of me running VEP challenge mode.